Hola, welcome to another edition of City and State TV. I'm Gerson Borrero, joined by a person very well known in New York City politics circle. His name is Mike Nieves. Mike, let me give you some background. First of all, thank you for agreeing. You just got off a plane.
I did.
You from Chicago.
I did.
The Windy City. Last night, history was made there. It had been a while that an incumbent is going to face a runoff. We're going to get into that. Mike Nieves is a political consultant, but he's also a person who's been in New York City, New York State, federal government in terms of working from the New York City Council. You worked for various speakers. Last one was Christine Quinn. Yes. Prior to that, Gifford Miller. Prior to that, you actually did work for Peter Ballone. And so he has a vast experience. I've known you for around a good 30 years already, even though we're so young. But Mike's expertise was called upon, and this is the New York connection to that historical primary held in the Windy City, in which the incumbent mayor, Rahm Emanuel, of national stature from the Obama administration, was in the clique of the Obama guys from Chicago, all of a sudden has to go in a runoff in 6 weeks, April 7th, with someone named Jesús García, his nickname Chuy. You'll be hearing more about Chuy, but Mike Nieves, you were on the team that upset the apple cart. Why do they call a guy from New York into Chicago to do politics, and what did you do?
Well, one of the things is that their chief consultant, Andrew Sharp, who's a friend of mine, has done work before here in New York, and we have collaborated on a bunch of campaigns. And they brought me in originally for their very short and concise and very specific petitioning process, which is something I'm very familiar with in New York. We do a lot of
petitioning. That's to qualify the candidate.
To qualify the candidate. After the teachers union president, Karen Lewis, withdrew because of health reasons, a very short period of time, we had to qualify Chuy. And so we were brought in and we helped organize that and assist him with that and help put Chuy on the ballot. Afterwards, I was asked last week if I could come in and help supervise and be part of the election day operation.
To get out the vote?
Which is to get out the vote, and particularly to my expertise, which is the Latino niche, the Latino community. And as you know, or you may not know, he's won all but one ward, which is 17 wards.
I'm still give us a breakdown. How well did Jesús Chuy García did, and how bad did Rahm Emanuel do? I mean,
well, let's put it into perspective. Rahm Emanuel spent $13 million. Chuy spent $1.1 million. So I'm assuming that at some point of the day today, Rahm is screaming the hell out of his team because they've cost him $13 million, right? Chuy was able to do this from a grassroots. And what the similarity is to New York is the Dinkins administration, how we got Dinkins into office.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that what happened with David and Dinkins, the first African-American mayor, now reverts to the possibility of running the same kind of operation, the same these 6 weeks?
Same kind of coalition. People of color, brown and black, progressive whites, labor, the gay community, all comes together, and that makes the coalition. What Chuy had in his favor was he had that grassroots. What I noticed in the petitioning gathering is in a matter of weeks, off the internet, he got 700 people to volunteer on their own, of their own volition. Not that
these are individuals,
Chicago residents who saw he was running. They got online, they registered, they volunteered, they printed, because in Chicago you can print the petition offline, and they did it, and it was fantastic.
You've just connected the dots from Chicago to New York, your presence over there. Is it that it happened, or is it Mike Nieves wanting to see the scenario that this is the way this runoff has to be run?
Well, part of it has to do, again, I give a lot of credit to Andrew Sharp, who was familiar, very familiar with New York politics. He was here in '97 during the Ruth Messenger campaign. Right. So there's a synergy between New York and Chicago in that sort of sense.
Okay.
But this transcends even more, right?
How so?
Because you're on the heels of a 2016 election. You have a president who supported Rahm Emanuel. This guy, the Democratic Party has two problems. They don't have a Clinton who, after he left office, can go around the country and support people. Because Obama's support is almost a kiss of death. You almost want him to stay away from.
But Mike, that's hard to really grasp because he's from Chicago. That's
it may be, but that's the results. Those are the results.
You found that on the ground.
I found that on the ground. $13 million spent, and you can't get over 45% of the vote. That's outrageous.
Is that the real number? I'm hearing there was 7 million, and he still got some on the kitty.
He still got some on the kitty. That's what he raised, and it comes from all kinds of special interest groups. And we were very glad that Chuy last night pointed that out in his victory speech.
We know who Rahm Emanuel is. We know the background. This is a Mexican who lives in Chicago, who's already in public life.
Right. 30 years.
Right, okay. So
county executive.
Right, so what...
Well, they call it their commissioner.
What is it that Jesús García, by the way, the nickname Chuy comes from the name Jesús. Jesús with an accent on the U, Garcia with an accent on the I, so that you all get custom, like Fariña kind of thing. But I'd like to make a point of that. So Chuy really is the nickname for Jesús.
Right.
So having said that, what is it about Chuy that New Yorkers, I saw him in his campaign victory speech, and he was very enthusiastic. I saw a lot of the faces that you and I are familiar, brown faces on it. What is it that we don't know that we should look out for that this guy could probably take out a guy like Rahm Emanuel?
Well, one of the things is that it's unique, and as you said at the beginning, I served a long time and worked with a lot of elected officials. Usually, the reason why people don't like electeds is because the electeds are interested in what's good for them or particularly good for their district, right? This man has served the government as an alderman, as what we call city council, as a state senator. He's an urban planner. He started his own grassroots community organization. Mm-hmm. He is presently a county executive. This man really is a man of the people. And what I like to, and you can appreciate it because he was your friend, what I like to liken this to is to when Herman Badillo first ran, where the Latinos were so proud, where the Latinos felt the need to come out. Yeah, that groundswell is there. And let me tell you something. The other thing the Democratic Party has to realize, with this race in particular, is that Latinos, Hispanic Latinos, cannot be taken for granted. There is no city in this country, a large city, that has a Latino as a mayor. We lost Castro to the administration. We lost L.A. Villaragrusa. So this is time to make history.
And he decided he's not going to run for the Senate seat being vacated in California by Barbara Boxer.
Right.
So he's made that determination in order for a African-American, a black, to be able to do that. Who is he similar to? Does he have an equal Jesús Chuy García in New York that we could, so New Yorkers can more or less say what this, or is he in a category himself?
Well, he's.
You don't want to compare.
No. It's not hard.
I know you said Herman,
but let's say he has the intellect of Herman Badillo and the street smarts and the feel of Jose Rivera, right?
Okay.
So he's a grassroots type of guy. He's a guy who can go into a place with a guayabera and a jeans. This guy can roll up his sleeves, play with the people of Chicago, and he can crunch the numbers. He knows policy. He knows government.
The white vote, I understand, really didn't come out. Do you expect it now?
Well, I think the progressive whites came out. What didn't come out are the more wealthier whites, the two northern.
Are they angry
wards.
with Rahm Emanuel?
It could be that.
You're hoping for that.
Yeah, we are. No, what is clear to me is that the people of Chicago are ready for change. Maybe all of them may not agree that Chuy is the change, but they want change.
But the alternative is going to be between Rahm and Chuy.
Right. So now our job as Chuy's team is to make everybody who is suspect about Chuy to feel comfortable with him, to get to know him, to understand him. Because if you meet him, if you know him, if you sit down with him, you like him.
We're not going to be voting in that election. So what should New Yorkers be looking out for through city and state TV, through our print publications, different platforms? What should we be looking out to tell us that this is really a race? Or do you consider the fact that there's a runoff a race already?
This is a race. This is a race. There's a race. Well, what New Yorkers can do is there is also a connection between New Yorkers and Chicagoans. We have all, especially Puerto Rican families, and now more the Mexican families, have a connection. We have cousins there.
How are Puerto Ricans supporting the Mexican?
Puerto Rican supporting the Mexican. Yesterday I saw a Puerto Rican flag being flown in the crowd. It made me really proud. I was standing on the edge of the stage and I could look out in the crowd and I could see this Puerto Rican flag. So, the Puerto Ricans are there, although Luis Gutiérrez
Tell me about Luis Gutiérrez.
Luis Gutiérrez on the other side.
He was on stage supporting Rahm Emanuel.
He's supporting Rahm Emanuel for whatever.
Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me. I would figure more progressive people would tend to lean to Chuy, but he has his reasons. He didn't support him. I don't know, but he didn't
You're
support
a Democrat,
him.
but wait
he didn't support him 4 years ago.
But he didn't support him then.
But he did.
So what would make a top person, Luis Gutiérrez, known to a lot of people, Washington, D.C., known to immigrant communities, being like the biggest voice in terms of immigration reform, why would he go with the guy, Rahm Emanuel, who, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Rahm Emanuel was the guy advising Obama against doing immigration reform when he went into the White House. He's the one that a lot of people blame for the president not having it done earlier, and now trying to catch up 2 years late, 2 years into his last term.
Well, that's a good question, right? And probably a better question asked of him than of me, because I really don't know. I seen the progress in Humboldt Park, and the last 2 times I was in Chicago, I had the opportunity of having lunch with Jose Lopez and visiting some of the places in Humboldt Park. And
that is the stronghold of the Puerto Rican.
Of the Puerto Rican, and is where Congressman Gutierrez comes out. There is a real gentrification going on there. There is a real, you could see real economic development. You can see it. But having said that, there's displacement. The Puerto Ricans have to be moving out, and there's gentrification taking on. So you would assume that a progressive elected like Gutierrez would be with a progressive candidate like Chuy. So sometimes politics plays a role. We're not privy to the history. So
I know you're on a tight schedule. You just came from a flight from Chicago, JFK. We appreciate that you came to see us here at City and State TV. What should we look for? What should we look for? Does the guy, how much money does Chuy need right now to make him a viable candidate? Would the teachers union nationally support him because the local did it make a difference?
The AFT did support him. They're there. I think what you're going to look for now is a greater role for labor. I think that some of the labor unions, like SEIU in Chicago, was split. There's a couple of different branches there. I think people will come together. I think people see that he is really a man of the people. He last night when he was thanking people, he was thanking firefighters and policemen,
civil
service and teachers.
Puerto Rican, Latino vote, Mexican vote in Chicago will go to Chuy.
Should go to Chuy. Yeah.
Should go. The white vote split.
Progressive white vote will split. The higher end white vote will
happens
go with
that's
the key.
African American.
That's the key. That's why
black votes will decide who the next mayor of Chicago is.
That's why the Dinkins model is what we need here. And Puerto Ricans in particular and Hispanics in the city of New York played a role. We fell in line right behind the candidacy of David Dinkins, because it was good.
As they did in Harold Washington.
As they did in Harold Washington, which Chuy
spoke. Of Chicago.
Chuy spoke at Harold Washington's funeral. Chuy was close to Harold Washington. So, it's time for the people of color, brown and black, to get together and make change in Chicago. And I think that change in Chicago is coming. And I think that it's either going to happen in the next 6 weeks or it's going to happen in the next term. But we need to watch Chuy, because Chuy's now going to be not only hopefully the mayor of Chicago, but he will be an influence on the whole national scene, and he will play a role in. It would make him the
first Latino, first Mexican to be mayor of the city of Chicago.
Yep.
Mike Nieves, political consultant, native New Yorker, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. He's everywhere. So thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
We'll keep in
Thanks
touch
for having
and
me.
keep us in, tell us some of the things that you can share and see who jumps over from New York. Do you expect New York politicians to go?
I expect that they will be reaching out to New York politicians and New York labor groups to see what's happening.
Mike Nieves, good luck.
Thanks
for stopping by. City and State TV, I'm Gerson Borrero.